Coming up on The World Today. As U.S. troops pull out of Afghanistan, the host country's own security forces are almost overwhelmed by the Taliban forces. Gang behind a colossal ransomware attack demand as much as $70 million in Bitcoin or they will make data public. Plus, South Africa's President Jacob Zuma says apartheid government treated him better than the current one. A warm welcome to the program today to our viewers here in Nigeria and around the world. I'm Amarachi Ubani in Lagos. We begin with the program with the Afghan officials confirming the country's soldiers numbering more than 1,000 have fled into neighboring Tajikistan after clashing with Taliban militants. A statement by the Tajikistan border guard says the troops retreated over the border to save their own lives. Violence has risen in the country with the Taliban launching attacks and taking more territory in recent weeks. The search continues with the end of NATO's 20-year military mission in the country. The vast majority of remaining foreign forces in Afghanistan have been withdrawn ahead of the September deadline, and there are concerns the Afghan military will collapse. Meanwhile, under a deal with the Taliban, the US and its NATO allies agreed to withdraw all troops in return for a commitment by the militants not to allow Al-Qaeda or any other extremist group to operate in the areas that they control. But as security remains a huge concern in Afghanistan, security personnel were seen guarding Bagram Air Base earlier today following the departure of American troops from their main military base in the country, marking a symbolic end to America's longest war. The quiet departure from the base on Friday came as the Taliban insurgency ramps up its offensive throughout the country after peace talks almost ceased. Bagram is just 1 hour's drive from Kabul, the Afghan capital. It's also where the U.S. military coordinated its air and logistical support for its entire Afghan mission. The Pentagon says turnover of Bagram to Afghan security forces was a key milestone in the withdrawal, but insists the U.S. military still has authority to protect Afghan forces. Let's bring in geopolitical analyst Edward Okpa. He's in Dallas, Texas. Mr. Okpa, thank you for joining us on the program today. This was the major concern, wasn't it, even before the withdrawal of U.S. troops from Afghanistan, that the Taliban forces would return and security would be heightened. And much of this has been, even though this has been, the longest war in U.S. history, was there any alternative to the timing of withdrawal of U.S. And other foreign troops from Afghanistan?
Well, thank you for having me on your show. The former president, Trump, had already made commitment that American forces has to be, withdrawn from Afghanistan. So I'm glad that President Biden has followed suit. America getting involved in that war, as much as we had a good intention for it, it turned out to be something that we should never have been involved in. Back for more than how many years now, the Afghans have just refused to focus on their own issues and become a responsible country. They've been killing themselves. The Taliban, for whatever reason, have just decided to be a terrorist group, terrorizing their own people. And who are they killing? They're killing their fellow Afghans, innocent people, women and children. I don't know why any country would see that as a war they have to, engage in. And then, Russia has done their own effort and Russia pulled out. Russia said, this is not something we want to be in. And then America, thought we're going to be the policeman of the world, and we get over there, and then we finally found out that we don't have to be there. And so it's important that countries begin to look at themselves. They have to be responsible nations. Because when you killing yourself, who are you killing? I mean, you're not killing other people, you're killing yourself. So there's no winner in this situation. So I'm glad that America is pulling out of it, because no American blood should be wasted for any country that is irresponsible. If they're attacking Americans, of course we will attack them. But I don't think, I'm not a subscriber to America having to go waste our resources, defending a country that doesn't want to be responsible.
Well, speaking of responsibility, America made itself responsible for Afghanistan trying to, shore up troops and also prepare them for what's ahead. I know the people in Afghanistan have expressed their fear about the withdrawal and what might happen after. So what does it then say now with the recent attacks, about the preparedness of the troops to take over when the final withdrawal takes place?
Well, I mean, again, it comes back to, what I said earlier, that nations now supposed to be responsible. America is going to withdraw. We're not going to be there permanently because it's a cost to us and we're wasting our life. So there's fear. The Afghans should have recognized at some point in time that America is going to withdraw because, again, we have family members here. We have our Congress all beginning to say, why are we there? Why are we in Afghan? What is of interest to us? If they refuse to be responsible and protect themselves, then why should we be the one wasting our own blood and our own resources? At the end, we get egg on our face for trying to help somebody to take care of their own. So, yeah, there's fear among the Afghans, but then it's going to be up to them. Now, they have a president. They have elected politicians or appointed politicians.
Yeah, but they have a president almost installed by the U.S. government. Let's not forget, they have a president who was installed by the U.S. government. The U.S. made possible the elections that brought the current president into office.
Well, I mean, of course, the U.S. is going to, anytime you have an issue and you invite an outsider, they're going to choose a side. They're going to choose a side. So U.S., right or wrong, chose somebody. And obviously, the same person they chose is not an American, it's an Afghan. And what do you get? Is they get the same nuisance, you get the same behavior. So, yes, U.S. is going to check somebody, just like what happened in Iraq. At the time, U.S. had an administrator, and then after a while, he was handed over to an Iraqi, and then what happened? The same thing that is going on in Libya. Anytime a country fails itself and invites an outsider, there are consequences for it. So the blame should not be on America because America is going to choose a side, and whatever side they choose, whether it ends up the way they want it or in another way, is just a matter of judgment. So if you don't want that to happen, then that's where you have to take care of your own. Self-preservation is the first order of business. Any nation that refuses to do that.
I'm sorry to cut him here, but President Ashraf Ghani, I know, was not accepted by everyone in Afghanistan. I know the U.S. had to broker a deal with the Taliban in order for him, to make it into office. But yesterday was July 4th, and America prides itself with freedom of Americans, freedom for people all over the world. Does it consider, what's going on in Afghanistan, a success, a win, freedom for the people there?
Well, freedom is a natural right. It's a human right. But then what happens is, you now get into a situation where you have rogue nations or rogue leadership that decide to say, okay, this is what you should, this is the amount of freedom you should have. So yes, in America, at the time, we fought for independence. It was never handed over to us. And then it's been part of this nation. Yes, America is not a perfect nation, but America is better than most nations out there because we have our freedom, and our freedom is entrenched in our laws, in our constitution. So every nation should aspire for that. They should aspire to have their people to be free to the extent they can do certain things, because we are dealing with human beings. And, the constraints imposed by political class in order to control people does not help any nation. I was born and raised in Nigeria. I'm glad I left that country because there are certain things they do. I just can't understand it. So freedom is priceless, and that should be the ultimate goal of every nation. Give your people the freedom of choice, the freedom to do things, and provided there are laws. When you violate those laws, then we can go after somebody. But you can't just come in and impose wishes because you're a president or prime minister or governor. You can't do that. That's just going to constrain people. Well, so America, the freedom for ourselves first. Charity has to start from home. If somebody else wants it, you can copy and paste. But the point is, many people can copy, but do you have the will to paste?
Mr.
For instance,
I don't want us to dwell, on the negative so much. I know that July 4th celebration was something Americans looked forward to, and this year would be the second during a pandemic. Very quickly, tell us what that was like, seeing that, the celebration was kind of curtailed because of the global pandemic.
Well, people are tired for 1 year. Everybody was sequestered. We were all doing this Zoom and we are doing all kinds of technology stuff. So finally, people found out that this is we are human beings. There's social need for interaction. So, this past week, people were out. Our parks, our lakes, it was all full with people. And airplanes, in fact, the airlines were canceling flights because they were not expecting this number of people willing to travel. So the pandemic is over, basically. We found out that the scientists don't even know what science to put out there because the science oftentimes was controlled by government or politics. So people are saying, in fact, last year, the third cause of death is in America is the COVID. And there are two more other, health disease and something killed more people than COVID did. So let's be free. This is not going to wipe the human race. We just have to be careful. But I don't subscribe to bureaucrats beginning to dictate to people what they should or shouldn't do. So that's part of the freedom. And we
Sorry, but I guess the celebration continues today. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate your thoughts and your analysis. We'll leave you now to continue with the eating, drinking, and the fireworks, much of which we'll see later in the program.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure.
$70 million, not in cash, but in Bitcoin. That's how much the gang behind a colossal ransomware attack is demanding in return for a universal decryptor that it says will unlock the files of all victims. The rebel group claims its malware, which initially targeted U.S. IT firm Kaseya, has hit 1 million systems. This number has not been verified, and the exact total of number of victims is still unknown. However, it does include 500 Swedish co-op supermarkets and 11 schools in New Zealand. And on Friday, cybersecurity firm Huntress Labs estimated about 200 firms had been affected. The supply chain attack initially targeted Kaseya before spreading through corporate networks that use its software. Kaseya said that fewer than 40 of its own customers had been affected. In the meantime, the president of the Federal Office for Information Security, Shobom, says the cyber attack on Kaseya attacked its structures vital to the world's digital nerve system. Shobom also expects more companies to be coming forward reporting breaches in their security systems. He says Kaseya had many IT service providers as clients. Some have already reported breaches, and I assume that there will be more in the course of today and in the course of this week. It is a dynamic situation of danger which is evolving here. He also said so far there were no information yet of critical infrastructure in Germany being affected, and that showed that Germany's cybersecurity law was good protection against these attacks. We'll have more coming up on The World Today after the break, including this story. Yeah, I did mention it. The fireworks for the July 4th celebration. What is a July 4th without them? We'll talk about America next. Join us again. Welcome back. It's a Watching the World Today on Channels Television. President Rodrigo Duterte of the Philippines has paid tribute to soldiers who died in what has been described now as the country's worst military accident in 3 decades. More than 50 people, it is being reported, including civilians, were killed when an Air Force plane that overshot a runway crashed on Sunday. The president flew to a military camp in the southern city of Zamboanga, where the dead, numbering dozens and dozens of injured people, were brought to, following the crash of a transport plane that the Defense Ministry had certified as being in good condition. Authorities have ordered an investigation beginning today into the crash. Our focus on the global pandemic continues as face masks will no longer be legally required and distancing rules will be scrapped at the final stage of England's COVID lockdown roadmap, according to Prime Minister Boris Johnson. The rule of 6 inside private homes will be removed and work-from-home guidance abolished as 16 months of on-off restrictions on daily life end. The Prime Minister says he expects the final step would happen as planned on July 19th. It will be confirmed on July 12th after review of the latest data. Saying in the UK, as many as 975 school children are at home isolating in the town of Tamworth in Staffordshire, said to be the second highest infection COVID rate place in England at the moment, after a 225% rise from a rate of 202 cases per 100,000 to 657 in the week up to June 30. A county council says cases had rocketed and thousands of pupils and school staff have been asked to get tests to try to get on top of the situation. There's more in the Global Update.
Rising COVID-19 cases are not the only highlight in Britain today. So is the tribute paid to the country's National Health Service workers with a service of thanksgiving at London's St. Paul's Cathedral. The Duke of Cambridge, Prince William, was in attendance, although his wife, Kate, was self-isolating after contacts with someone who had tested positive to COVID-19. Prime Minister Boris Johnson, the newly installed Health Minister, Sajid Javid, and opposition Labour leader, Keir Starmer, also paid their respects to the state-run health service. Millions of miles away, Mexico is bracing for a coming third wave of coronavirus cases, amid fears that an easing of measures to stop the spread of the virus will see new strains take hold. Infections have spiked 64% in 3 weeks, according to Health Ministry data. Despite the spike in cases, deaths and hospitalizations have remained fairly low. Russia has reported more than 24,000 new COVID-19 cases today, including 6,557 in Moscow, taking the official national tally since the pandemic began to over 5.6 million. The government's coronavirus task force says 654 people have also died of coronavirus-linked causes in the past 24 hours. Finally, Luxembourg's Prime Minister, Xavier Bettel, was admitted to hospital on Sunday following a positive COVID-19 test at the end of June. He was undergoing additional tests and would remain under observation for 24 hours as a precaution. Bettel in late June took part in a 2-day EU summit in Brussels, where participants included the French President Emmanuel Macron, Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi, and other EU leaders.
An agreement has been reached between the Egyptian government and the owners of the Ever Given, that ship which blocked the Suez Canal back in March. The Egyptian government would release the container ship on Wednesday after settlements, which has not been revealed. A 400-meter-long Ever Given became wedged across the canal after running aground amid high winds. It was freed 6 days later following a salvage operation that involved a flotilla of tugboats and dredging vessels, and during which one person was killed. Global trade was disrupted as hundreds of ships had to wait to pass through the 193-kilometer waterway, which connects the Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea and provides the shortest sea link between Asia and Europe. Well, here in Nigeria, NEDCOM chairman ABIKE DABIRI-EREWA has met with the Swiss ambassador to Nigeria, Ambassador GEORG STEINER, to discuss the issue of diaspora data mapping and capacity building. The NEDCOM boss explained that with the establishment of the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission and ratification of the Nigeria Diaspora Policy by the Federal Executive Council, Nigerians in the diaspora now have a one-stop agency to latch on for mutually beneficial engagement, as well as encouragement and enablement for overall national development. She called for support, though, from the Swiss government to help make this work. Ambassador Stein, on his part, commended NEDCOM's efforts, describing Nigerians as great and excellent achievers.
It's a new commission, and the Swiss Embassy has done so much in terms of migration and all that. So all we're asking simply is, how can we partner with you? What can you do for us? Now that we have an agency, can be part of it, you know? And I know of the mechanics and a whole lot that have been trained. And when people know this is happening, they can be encouraged more to stay in their own country and do more things other than travel irregularly and get into trouble. You know, we also believe that in that regard, awareness will be very critical. So we're just looking forward to saying, here we are a baby, a new baby of federal government, a very important baby. And I'm glad that in the last 2 years we've been able to make, well, some little measure of impact with the establishment of the commission. So it's just that we're just saying, well, we need to partner with you, we need your support in whatever way.
Bringing in a commission like yours, I think, is a good thing, you know, might help us to further reshape this partnership and also work on new aspects that also due to limited financial and personnel resources might not have been addressed in a way that would bring further merit to diaspora affairs. So what I can assure you is I think your visit is a first step in a very good direction. We are open to also proposals from your side, you know, in the sense that once you know a little bit better what this bilateral migration partnership is about, then you identify from your side what in your view is maybe lacking, you know, or where you would see an area to bring in your expertise in a more prominent way.
And in South Africa, former President Jacob Zuma today failed to hand himself over to his nearest police station following a constitutional court ruling in his contempt of court charge. Briefing the media at his homestead in KwaZulu-Natal, he explains why he is still a free man and what legal action he has taken. He also insinuated that the apartheid government, which he fought against, treated him better than the current one. He adds that he believes the courts were being used by his political opponents to settle scores. Now, Zuma's legal team is expected to argue tomorrow that his sentence must be stayed pending the outcome of his rescission application.
You want me to hand myself over? Okay. No. I think the initiative that we undertook with my team to submit papers to the Constitutional Court that they must reconsider their decision. And they're accepting those papers. It meant that, therefore, they can't accept the papers and expect me to go to jail.
What has happened is this. 2 applications were launched on Friday, right? The first application was to the Constitutional Court for the rescission of the order and judgment that was given on the 29th. Now, rescission is just a legalese word. It simply means that that decision must be set aside on the basis of errors and omissions in the judgment. Okay? Now, the second application was brought to the Pietermaritzburg High Court. That application is going to be heard this Tuesday. The first application to the Constitutional Court was a normal application. The second one was an urgent application. Right? The urgent application was brought to sit down on Tuesday simply because, as you know, that there were 2 deadlines. There's one of today, then there was the other one of 3 days thereafter for the police. And its intention was to suspend the arrest order or to interdict the Minister of Police and the National Commissioner from executing that order.
Manu Patel made India's Olympic history on Friday by becoming the country's first female swimmer to qualify for Tokyo 2020 after a world governing body, FINA, approved her participation under the universality quota following some strong performances in European meets in the last 3 months. The universality quota allows one female and male participant, each from a country, to take part in the Olympics, provided no other swimmer of the same gender qualifies for the competition through the normal process. And those were fireworks from yesterday. What is a July 4th without the fireworks is the question. America's 245th birthday was not without them. In New York, the early epicenter of the pandemic, that's the global pandemic, the annual Macy's 4th of July fireworks display returned after being cancelled in 2020. That'll be all on the world today. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Ubani.